Everybody, happy Tuesday. Um, Start the instruction component of this first day's lessons. We're going to start with activity 1.4. In the previous example, 1.3, there we had a graph of a bamboo plant that grew 60 inches every day. So looking at that example, we're going to talk about something called direct variation. And we had one day, it grew 60 centimeters. And so it is direct variation if the ratio between the y and its corresponding x value is constant for every point. So if your y is 60 centimeters and your x is 1, the ratio is 60 to 1 or 60. And if it's 2 days, it's 120. And we proved that every time that constant was 60. So there is direct variation between x and y as long as that constant stays the same. So you can find that that's going to be also based on yesterday's lesson, that's going to be a really good example um, of proportionality as well. That's going to be our one like true measure of proportionality. So for today's lesson, we're going to take a look at this example. Very similar. Car drives 60 miles per hour. Now we got 60 miles in an hour. It's an example of direct variation. We know this is a worked example. The distance varies directly as the time does. So every hour, we're going to go another 60 miles. So that constant's always going to be 60. So if this is 1 and 60, this is going to be 120 and 2, 180 and 3. And 60 to 1 is the same as 120 to 2, which is the same as 180 to 3. You divide those out, you're going to get 60 as your constant every time. Okay? So because that constant is the same, it is an example of direct variation. So I'm just going to put down there, explain how the situation in the worked example is an example of direct variation. It's direct variation because the constant is the same between each x and y value. 60 to 1 is the same as 120 to 2 because 120 divided by 2 is 60, which is the same as 180 to 3 hours because 180 divided by 3 is 60. So we're always going to have that 60. Every hour is going to be an original 60, and that's the constant that we're looking at. Now your job is going to be to go ahead and do problems 2 and 3. You're going to explain how you can use each graph in 1.3, which we'll go over those in the answers as well, is proportional or not, to determine the scenarios represented. You can figure out which ones are direct variations or not, I should say. And then 3, you can list an example of quantities that vary directly. That means they have direct variation, which means they are proportional. Okay, and then sketch a quick graph for it. Doesn't have to be anything fancy. You guys work on that. I'll come back with the next video and the solutions to problems 2 and 3.